I think you're talking about Jerry and me. Because certainly I served 8 years before, and then I came back and I ran for city council. But I've got to tell you, I ran because I really felt that I had a lot to offer the city with my experience, and that counts for a lot. And that historical knowledge, the historical background. You know, I was on the planning commission in the early 90s when Jerry was on the council, and then Jerry and I served together for 6 years. But it's really important and critical that, you know, you can work with your colleagues and tell them, you know, and tell them, yes, you know what, we delved into this. This is how we tried to handle it. These are the pitfalls that we made. These are the successes that we made. So I don't necessarily think that it's an evil thing that council members are coming back. I think it's a great thing that we have a cooling off period. That way it allows other people who have not had the privilege of running for office to take our positions. Thank you.
Well, I'm not a career politician. I grew into this position from all my service for 15, 18 years. I grew into this. And I believe that it's a natural progression to go through all the commissions and planning commission and then council, and if the time is right and you have the skill set and the leadership qualities to go into the mayoral position. But I think that once you've done 8 years or 2 terms in any position, I would be in favor of a hard term limit as opposed to soft. I think that it is a good idea to bring new experiences, get contributions, new ideas, fresh faces. I think that Chula Vista is a city of very talented people and interested people, and I think this year we have a whole slew of fresh faces running for council. I think that's a wonderful thing.
Some restrictions what the city of Chula Vista has is a hard task, but we don't have that for the mayor office because it's always been a natural progression. In most cases, people running for city council who have the experience that will opt for running for mayor because you have that experience in leadership. But I submit to you that experience does count. And leadership does count, and what you have before voters in every election, whether it's 1 term or 2 terms, you have term limits. If incumbents are not provided to do the job that citizens expect, you don't vote for it. You vote them out of office. When I had served 2 terms, I went off the council, and there were things that needed to get done, and when I ran again 2 years later, the opportunity was putting before the voters, do they want that experience of leadership? Do they want to be sure that things are finalized, completed? And they had that choice. So anytime you run for office, you are at the potential of being terminated because you may not get elected. And I think experience and leadership is so critical that the voters judge will make a difference, because it's really unfair that if you have talent and experience in your city, don't allow voters to have access to that and make that decision. That's wrong. And the voters will make wise choices because experience and leadership in leading the city and getting things done is critical, and we live the recipients of benefit because of that.
Yes, we do have these problems. They have occurred in different areas of our cities. We're well aware of it. We have the police department working with the business owners. And yes, I'm in favor of all those suggestions that were made. I believe those are very good ideas.
Public safety is the #1 priority. As a high school principal, we have school resource officers, and that's because during the day you have a large number of students in a small area, and that's where problems result. Unfortunately, this city is not perfect. We do have those problems, but that's where your council and your mayor provides the leadership to ensure that public safety is ranked #1. And it's appalling the fact that the number of public safety officials, not just fire but police, for this city is way proportionally lower than it should be. Yes, we're lucky we have a lower crime rate, but we do have those problems, and I would be an advocate to ensure that public safety is the #1 thing our citizens expect, and we'll support that. And we need to deal with those problems. that's why with the increased revenue, as you expand your businesses, you're going to have those resources to make a difference. And that's very, very important.
Is that top priority for the residents of Chula Vista. We do live in a very, very safe city. Much of that is because we just have good people living here. We are short of police officers, but public safety has always been my #1 priority. That's why I am very, very proud to be endorsed by our police and our firefighters. But in regards to the answer to the question, yes, we do have problem areas in the city with underage drinking, particularly in the parking lot of the amphitheater. And I know there's this terrific group, their name is escaping me now, and I've been meeting with them for a long time, that are really doing a good job in informing us about the problem and informing the amphitheater owners about it. And there have been steps to tighten security there on there. However, they also want to propose for us to approve the deemed approved ordinance. And while that is a very well-intentioned ordinance, what it would do is it would really take away from the resources that we have for our police officers to have to go into these businesses and enforce it. It charges small businesses a tax, whether they're the bad guys or not. It charges them a tax to fund this. And a lot of our small restaurants, our mom and pops, they have razor-thin margins, and so I don't think that's the best way to go.
Libraries are very important. Obviously, as a lifelong educator, I support libraries. My first position in the city of Chula Vista was an appointment to the library board. And we always ask citizens to get involved and giving back. Libraries are important. And yes, we do need to ensure that we have a library in the East Lake area, and that's a shortcoming that hasn't been addressed. And as your next mayor, I'll ensure as a lifelong educator,
and it's a really good question, and we need to update our library master plan to reflect the new way of learning and getting information. And so we have to re-examine the square footage that you're dedicating to library space and all, reflecting that. We're doing some great things. We did some great things in the Hotel Ranch Shopping Center when we partnered with the shopping center, and it's become a win, to open a little storefront library there. It's heavily used, and it's a win-win because it draws customers into the shopping center. And then we've taken the library out to the community where it's very, very accessible for them. We have a wonderful opportunity with the development of Millennium, the McMillan project that's coming up they've already broken ground on it, but there are plans for a wonderful library out there on the east side. So, and libraries are a great priority for me. I've watched my council budget very, very closely, and so I haven't taken a car allowance, and I haven't done a number of things that you could spend your money on within your council budget, and as a result, I had a $10,000 surplus my first year on the council, and I donated that to the library because we had so few, it was the city's money, your taxpayer money, but nonetheless it was surplus in my budget that I directed to the libraries because as one resident told us, one friend of the library told us, shame on you for spending more on bullets than books, right? And that's so true. And we need to really support our libraries.
Well, back in the 80s, when I purchased a home in the Rancho Del Rey area, there was a big sign that said, future home, or home of future library. And the entire time that I lived there, my kids were growing up and I was anticipating the library. That never happened for economic reasons. The city was able to build brand new police stations, brand new city hall. Capital expenditures were going like wildfire, but we couldn't build a library. Now, we're in a different era. I've recommended that if an opportunity arises to recycle a building in the areas, Kmart, Costco, those commercial areas by the theater, that we take those opportunities if if they become available. But the problem is paying for staffing. We don't have the funding right now to pay for the staffing. So we will have a library eventually in the Eastern Urban Center. Hopefully one day we'll have one in Rancho Del Rey. This is a big concern. The Friends of the Library's motto about as many books as bullets, I think that everyone on the council has adopted that we need to do that, and we need to support our libraries and expand our services.
Well, aren't we embarrassed it happened? And there we are stuck with this horrible thing on our bayfront. But we're going through a process, in order to insulate the city from legal liability, and to insulate the city from having to spend millions and millions of dollars. This particular business, that is their business model. They go to cities, they push the cities to a point where cities are shutting them down without the adequate backing, and then the cities get sued. The eye candy owners get millions of dollars in their pocket, and then they walk away and leave the city just devastated. That's their history, that's what they're doing. But we have a very strong legal team that's really working on this smartly to ensure that we get them out with due process, and yet we're protecting our city from liability. It's a shame that happened. I wasn't on the council, but I'm not going to blame the council for that happening, because they were disingenuous with the way that they came into our city, and they were, they just pulled the wool over everybody's eyes, much to our embarrassment, right? We can't have anything like that on the bayfront. It's going to impede economic development there.
The project, when it came in, it was, the application was for a comedy club, and it was anything but a comedy club. Mistakes were made. I don't think that will ever happen again. But there has been some talk that some experiences in the past with other cities that show that this is cities that are vulnerable are cities that have very outdated laws on ordinances. Our city was one of those with very outdated ordinances. So, the first thing that we did was to update our ordinances so this kind of thing can't happen again. And we have strict regulations now, which the business is in violation of our ordinance and our regulations. I can't talk about the actions that are currently being taken by our legal staff, but I can tell you that these businesses have a constitutional right to exist, and that's where they often win their case, is that cities can't deny the constitutional right to have these types of businesses. But when a city has a modern, updated ordinance that specifies all different things like no lap dancing, no touching, these kind of 6 feet from the stage, and performers have to be on stage, then those rules are violated, then we have recourse, and we're taking those recourses.
There's really a two-part answer to this. One, it was a huge mistake. It should never happen. If you Googled the business, you would have had a better understanding of where we should have been, and we have to ensure that that never happens again. I don't think there's a person in this room that disagrees with the fact that I think you should not be in the bayfront. That's not all the door in the process, and that's going to occur a lot of areas. But the city has to go through the legal steps to ensure that the constitutional rights of the business owner is respected, and at the same time not be off the bayfront, because that's going to be very much unacceptable, and it should never happen. I assure you, when I was on the council, we monitored that really carefully, and so we've got to ensure that as ordinances are updated,